What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. What a disappointment this year has been. Not really. This has been one of the best movie years in recent history, but with every good comes a bit of bad, and not that the movies on this list are horrible films. I don't want anyone to get that confused. This is my top 10 most disappointing list, not my top 10 worst list. Now, there will be some movies on here that, I'm not the biggest fan of, but there are also going to be some movies on this list that I actually think are okay. But just because something's disappointing doesn't mean it's bad. You ask Twitter, they'll tell you something different. But this is my list of most disappointing movies. Now, clearly this is the kind of video that's going to make some people heated. That's not my intentions. I'm just giving you guys my honest opinion, and just because I feel some certain way doesn't mean you guys should feel that way. But I want to know in the comments down below, what were your most disappointing films of the year? Who knows? Maybe some of your most disappointing movies will end up on my top 10 best. But that's the beautiful thing about movies, man, is we all don't agree on everything, but we can share our thoughts and our feelings. That's what this channel is all about. If you enjoy this video, if you like the content I'm pushing out, definitely hit that thumbs up button, and we will do more things like this. I did my most surprising movies yesterday, more positivity on there, but let's get into this list. Here we go. I do have one honorable mention. That is It Chapter 2. I wanted to put this in the list. Now, don't get me wrong, I like It Chapter 2. I gave it a pretty positive score, but in comparison to the first film, the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, yeah, it just doesn't really live up. Like, I loved that first movie, and this one had a lot of great things going for it, but it also had some things that put it down, pulled it away, got very close to being my number 10. Coming in at number 10 is another movie that I genuinely like. This is an A24 film. I know, they've had the best year they've ever had, and a lot of their movies are in my top 10 of the year, but one that I was very disappointed in, but one that I like, just want to preface with that, is High Life. High Life is a beautiful movie. On a technical level, one of the best looking films of the year. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. I just didn't gravitate towards the story. And this is a film starring Robert Pattinson, who I've been defending the second he got cast as Batman. I've been defending this guy, and his performance in this film is great. It's all about he and his daughter, who are the last survivors, on a mission to the outer reaches of the solar system, to outer space. But along the way, there's going to be controversy. There's some crazy stuff that goes down in this film. That's where it kind of lost me, is it's a very slow-paced movie. And some things happen here and there I didn't want to get into because I didn't know anything about this movie going in. But things that didn't necessarily hit me very hard, at least the way that they intended to. And the entire time they're on this spaceship, they're hurtling towards a black hole, basically. And the ending of this film is beautiful. And there are so many beautiful moments and captivating moments. And Pattinson's performance is one that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. He is so good in this movie. And like I said, some of the best cinematography I've seen this year. It's just a story that does not quite live up to the hype for me. I think it's a wonderfully shot movie. And once again, I thought the movie was pretty good, but this is my list of most disappointing films. And I thought it would be, close to masterpiece, like A24 great film level along with the movies in my top 10. It's not quite there for me, and that's why it is at this spot on this list. The next movie on my list is a Steven Soderbergh-directed film starring Meryl Streep, Gary Oldman, Antonio Banderas, Jeffrey Wright, Sharon Stone. Why is this movie as bad as it is? And I'll say, this is one that I don't like at all. It's also one that I thought would be really good. I saw High Flying Bird earlier on in the year, and I thought out of the two, I would much prefer The Laundromat just because of the source material and just the fact that it's dealing with what it's dealing with, whether it's the fake insurance policy, the fact that you have basically Gary Oldman and Antonio Banderas commentating as they go along, and the money laundering and all of these interesting storylines, and how it tries to tie all of these different stories together. But this movie is a complete mess, man. This film is so messy compared to what it intended on doing and how I felt about the trailer. I'm like, yeah, this trailer's cool. It looks fun. It feels like The Big Short in a way, and it tried to be The Big Short, but it just could not quite get there. And The Laundromat is not a good movie. It's not my top 10 worst of the year, but in terms of movies that disappointed me, the fact that I thought this was going to be really good, I had to put it on this list. And another film that I thought I would love from an acclaimed director, Jim Jarmusch, The Dead Don't Die, one of the most captivating casts of the year. Adam Driver, Bill Murray, Tilda Swinton, Selena Gomez, Steve Buscemi. This movie is another one that I can say really did not capitalize. Now, is it as messy as The Laundromat? No. Do I think it's a bad movie? No. I just think it's a film that didn't really stick with me like it intended to. And to be honest, And a lot of people gave me crap when I said this in the review. I thought this movie was kind of boring. I really did. And usually I love a slow burn like this. I love really dry humor, and those are normally the jokes that captivate me even more than the studio comedy, the ha-has. But for some reason, The Dead Don't Die just did not capture me. It felt like a tired premise that kind of lulled me to sleep, and by the time it got to the third act, I'm like, yeah, it's Bill Murray and Adam Driver. Why don't I care? And it's a shame. Not everyone feels this way. This was actually kind of acclaimed by critics, not all across the board, but more so than I'm giving an appraisal right now. So I'm sure many of you disagree with me, but it's my personal list of most disappointing movies, so I had to put this one on there. All right, here we go. I didn't realize this was going to be as controversial as it ended up being. Well, I'm a Marvel fan. I'm an MCU fan. Love superheroes. I was very much looking forward to Captain Marvel, and it's not bad. I don't think this is bad. I think Captain Marvel's an okay movie. But okay compared to what I wanted from this film, it's not okay enough. It's not good enough. I wanted Captain Marvel to be great. I wanted this to be the thing that gets me psyched out of my mind for Avengers Endgame. Now, I was still psyched out of my mind, but it wasn't due to this movie. This movie came and it went, and it was okay. I liked Sam Jackson's performance as Nick Fury, one of his best. I liked some of the storylines. Everything with the Skrulls was great. My big issue with this film is the fact that I just don't think Brie Larson was bringing it as Captain Marvel in her film, right? I prefer her in Avengers Endgame in her 2 minutes of screen, more than 2 minutes, but 2 minutes of screen time compared to her in her own movie, and that's not good, Once again, and it's inevitable. Austin, you hate female No. I was disappointed, and I have a right to be disappointed. I wanted more from this movie. The fact that it's closer to an Iron Man 2 than it is to an Iron Man 1, I guess that's a good way to put it, is not good on my list. It's the lower portion of my MCU films ranked. It was still fun enough, right? It's still entertaining enough, and I think a lot of people growing up with this film, they're going to absolutely love it, be riveted by it. That's okay. That's fine. But for me, it's number 7. Number 6, next up is Men in Black International. I don't know a lot of people that love this film, but I know some that have some fun with it. And here's when you know a movie is very underwhelming, dull, and forgettable. When your mom comes out of the screen, she watches movies. She knows that I love films, so she tries to watch more now. When she comes out and she calls me and says, I just don't think they executed as well as they intended to. And she starts throwing out these movie criticisms. I'm like, Mom, you raised me, and now I'm raising you, and you're bringing up all these wonderful points. And she gave it the exact same score that I gave it. I'm like, Mom, I'm so proud of you. Because she realizes she's a general audience member. She's not someone who watches 220 movies in a year. She's someone who goes out and watches, 15, 20 movies, right? Men in Black International was disappointing to her. To someone that loves the first 3. That's right. She even loves the second. It was disappointing to her. Do I need to say any more? Men in Black International just didn't do it. I'm sure it did for some, but for a lot of people it didn't, right? Very underwhelming characters. You could tell they had some kind of drama behind the scenes, and all that stuff comes out after the movie. It's like Hemsworth's agent was rewriting the script at one point. Just a mess. In this movie, F. Gary Gray, a really good director, sloppy. Just a sloppy film, man. I don't need to say very much more. It's not the worst thing I've seen all year. It's not offensively bad, but very, very disappointing. One of my favorite trailers from earlier on this year. I loved this trailer. I thought it was awesome. The pacing was great. My God, it's Stephen King. Another Stephen King movie that I was disappointed in. Well, it's Pet Sematary, man. And Pet Sematary turned out to be way more of a cliched studio horror film than I expected. Way more. I wanted this to be as good as I thought that trailer was. Just the slow burn, creepy feel to it. It almost felt like an A24 horror film, just in parts, right? Then the movie comes out, and it's so forgettable. It is so forgettable. It's almost dull. Some of the acting wasn't the best I've ever seen. It does not execute on its exciting premise. And then some of the shots ended up being not as good as they were in the trailer. So overall, Pet Sematary, a big disappointment, especially when you have a trailer that was that good, right? And here we go. And another trailer that blew me away. And one of my most hyped movies in the last 2 or 3 years. I love the first 2 films in this franchise. I'm a massive Unbreakable fan. I love me some Split. Glass, I gave a positive score to. So this is not me saying Glass is a bad movie. And I think the first 2/3 of this film are so good. Not great, but so good. And all you had to do was capitalize in the third act. Well, yeah, it just didn't do that for me, man. And I know it did for a lot of people, and I know a lot of people who really enjoyed this movie. And I heard one guy the other day say it's his favorite film of the year. That's fine. That's fine. Glass is just, I forgot it came out this year. I really did. Because it ended this franchise on such an underwhelming and disappointing note. What they do in the third act to some of our characters is so ridiculous. I don't even want to bring up the puddle. Has it been long enough to where I can... But that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Oh my... We just lost half the viewers, kids. They threw their phone down and stormed out of their house. I apologize to Glass fans out there. I was very underwhelmed. If you didn't already leave... See you later. It's Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Don't hurt me. Before you go, it's not bad. Like, I don't think Godzilla is bad. But I do think there are some storylines in here that are the most dull and uninteresting things I've seen all year. Or at least among the most dull and uninteresting. So when this film focuses on what I wanted it to focus on, by the way, one of my favorite trailers of the year. The trailer was magnificent. I loved everything about it. So my hype level was here. That's why it's on this list. Because I was very disappointed. I thought it was going to be one of the biggest and bestest blockbusters of all time, and it just wasn't that for me because the human storylines here are so utterly forgettable and pointless and dumb and cliche and predictable, and the writing is horrible. And I think the studio knows that, and I think that's why they pushed back the release date for Kong versus Godzilla, because they're probably doing the same thing for that movie, and they're like, we can't do that again, because this movie didn't make a lot of money, and this movie lost audience members because they want to see monster-on-monster action. And when we got that from this film, it was awesome. I love Mothra. I love King Ghidorah. I love everything about when the monsters are on-screen battling. That's when I was hyped. That's when I was in the theater throwing punches, and I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we need. But we flash back to the 2014 Godzilla, and that movie was so much better directed. Was I disappointed in that film? Yeah, because I wanted more Godzilla. And they give us more Godzilla in this film, but when we go back to the humans in this movie, it's significantly weaker than the prior film, but for some reason they spend so much time on Vera Farmiga's character in this film, and that entire dumb, ridiculous, dull storyline. This is one of the few times this year I had to keep myself from falling asleep when that was on screen. When it was the monsters, it was a lot of fun. So I know, I'm sorry, guys. I go back to the comments in my review, and I feel like I'm in the minority. Now, it didn't do very well at the box office, so obviously, they didn't do something right. Hopefully they fix it, but in terms of where I was when that trailer came out, so disappointing. So disappointed in this film. My goodness. Number 2. And it's not necessarily that number 2 I was super hyped about. I thought it was going to be one of the best movies of the year. No, I really love David Harbour, and I wanted this to be good. I didn't love the trailer. I wanted this to exceed the trailer. But it's so bad, I had to put it on this list. If this was just mediocre, then it probably wouldn't have even made this list because I wasn't super hyped about it. But in terms of where I was, which was about here going into it, and where I ended up leaving the theater, Hellboy is disappointing because it's garbage. I mean, this movie took everything that I love about modern superhero films, the fact that they've, managed to avoid mistakes that we made in the early 2000s, even the late 90s, when those superhero movies were coming out and making all of those mistakes. And it feels like lately, we've had predictable superhero films. We've had, similar to other superhero films, we've had ones that come out and just feel like they're doing it by the numbers like a Captain Marvel. But nothing is this offensive. Hellboy is offensively bad. Makes every possible mistake you can make in a superhero film in 2019. It belongs in the early 2000s, but it's even a bad movie from the early 2000s. I had no fun with this film. This movie was not fun at all. And it stinks because I like the idea behind it. I like what they were doing, setting up a sequel. That was cool. Some of the action is okay, I guess. And David Harbour was great as the character. He just didn't have anything to work with, and the story was awful. One of the worst villains of the decade, honestly. Disappointing. That's why it's number 2. So, this stinks. I actually like this movie from a quality standpoint better than my 2 and my 3. I think it's a bit better of a movie. It is a technical achievement. Some of the best animation I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is glorious to behold. But Lion King is just disappointing. It's just disappointing. This did not stick with me at all. at all. And I was so swept away by the trailers for this film. I mean, I had tears in my eyes when I first saw this trailer. And when the movie started and we get that introduction and it's exactly what I wanted it to be. And I don't even care if it's a rehash. Whatever, man. Just make it a movie that brings you the same joy and emotion that the original brought me. And I know for a lot of people it did that, right? But for me, The Lion King, it just felt a bit joyless and it felt a bit emotionless. And I saw the debate on Twitter and I said, this is dumb. Stop it. Get off Twitter. Stop arguing about silly things. It's an animated movie. It's a live action movie. Who cares? Who cares? Just make a good movie. But The Lion King, while it did some things well, and I thought the voice acting for the most part was okay, some were very underwhelming, it made choices and it made mistakes that I honestly just, the whole time I was thinking, why make that choice? Why make that decision? Why sing Can You Feel the Love Tonight in the daytime? Like, it's just things like that, that don't stick with you. And the debate that I was seeing, the fact that the lions weren't emoting, it didn't bother me at first, but the more I thought about the movie, the more I'm just like, I mean, they're kind of right. The magic was there in the original, one of my favorite animated movies of all time. And The Lion King tops so many of my lists. And the fact that you redo it is great. If you can make it look realistic, if you can make it exactly what it needs to be, what it intends to be. And it did some things well. And from a technical standpoint, it's brilliant. But it didn't resonate with me. I didn't feel what it was trying to make me feel. It did not rekindle that fire, that love that I have for The Lion King. And I walked out thinking, yeah. And then a week later, I kind of forgot that I saw it. And for me, that's a disappointing movie. Still don't think it's bad. I still think it is a technical masterpiece, but that's it. The story, the emotion, even the voice acting, it just doesn't compare to the original. And that for me is the definition of a disappointing film. Well, I know I lost at least half of you. For everyone remaining, I'm so sorry, guys. Listen, these are the times at the end of the year when you can reflect and ponder upon, wonder what could have been with movies like this. And this is no disrespect to the filmmakers or the people involved. This is just what movies are all about, in my opinion. Reflection, talking about how it affected you, why it affected you, and the way that it did. This is what movie making, filmmaking is all about. And this is why I love movies. So you guys can get in the discussion and discuss your thoughts. What was your most disappointing film of the year? What was your most surprising? Go over to that video. Check out that video that I did yesterday. And thank you guys so much. If you enjoyed this, like I said, smash that thumbs up button. It really does help out this channel. And it tells me you want more 2019 videos. I'm making it, guys. I'm making my top 10 movies of the year. I'm so excited to bring that to you all. You are truly the best. Thank you for watching. Oh, I am so sorry. I feel so bad.